After all, why do so few men manage to maintain a muscular body after 50 years old? And how can you solve this? Walk into any gym, airport, or busy shopping center and conduct a silent test. Look around and start counting. Specifically, look for men who you believe have already passed the 50-year barrier. Now count how many of them actually have a body that conveys strength, a posture that defies gravity, and a physical presence that commands respect. I'm not talking about men who simply aren't obese. I'm talking about muscular men with broad shoulders, full chest, and legs that demonstrate power. You'll notice something alarming very quickly. Maybe you'll find one, at most two, in every group of 100. This observation leads us to an uncomfortable question, one that most people avoid asking out loud. Why is it so rare? Does the human body have an internal expiration date that when we hit 50, shuts down the ability to be strong? Society tries to convince us of this. We accept ready-made narratives about inevitable decline. We tell ourselves that hormonal rates have dropped, that metabolism is slow, that it's normal to feel pain, and that at this stage of life, the goal should only be maintenance, avoiding the worst. This sounds logical and comforting because it removes responsibility from us, but it's a biological lie. What really happens is that the vast majority of men, about 95% of them, crash against invisible barriers that emerge with age. They don't know how to identify these barriers and consequently continue trying to use the same keys they used at 20 years old to open doors that have now changed their locks. The result is frustration, abandonment, and acceptance of physical mediocrity. That's why today you'll see exactly why the old method fails and how to build a new instruction manual for the mature male body. You're over 50 and really understand what will be explained here, you can be sure that your body will stop being the rule and become the exception. But before we begin, please tell us through the comments your name and your current age so we can prepare increasingly specific content for you. Well, to solve the problem, we first need to face the enemy with the correct name. The process of muscle loss has a clinical name, sarcopenia. From 30 years old onward, we lose a small percentage of muscle mass per decade. But after 50, this process stops being a gentle slope and becomes a cliff. The human body is a machine of efficiency and survival. Muscle is expensive tissue. It spends a lot of energy just to exist. Therefore, if your body perceives that this tissue is not vital for your immediate survival and that energy levels are decreasing, the first thing it does is get rid of muscle to save calories. It's an evolutionary protection measure that, in the modern world, works against us. But sarcopenia isn't the only villain. There's an even more insidious phenomenon called anabolic resistance. Imagine that your muscle cells are like a house under construction, and the protein you eat are the bricks. When you're young, any brick that arrives at the construction site is immediately used. The body is eager to grow. Hormones, insulin sensitivity, and enzymatic processes work at full steam. You eat a simple sandwich and the body converts that into tissue. However, as we age, the workers at this construction site become lazy and deaf. Anabolic resistance means that the same amount of protein and the same exercise that worked before no longer generate the same response. The cellular signal is weak. The muscle cell door is jammed and needs a much stronger and more precise push to open. Most men fail because they continue giving light taps on the door when now a battering ram is necessary. We can't fail to mention the neural barrier as well. Strength doesn't reside only in arm size, but in the nervous system's capacity to recruit fibers. Over the years, a progressive disconnection occurs between the brain and muscles, especially the fast-twitch fibers, those responsible for explosive strength and aesthetic volume. The nervous system loses efficiency. It's like trying to watch a high-definition movie using a dial-up internet connection. The signal arrives, but it arrives with noise, slow, and without clarity. That's why many men feel they train, sweat, and get tired, but the muscle seems not to respond. They're moving the weight, but not activating the musculature. They're just wearing down the joints without reaping the benefits of hypertrophy. Now that you've understood the hostile terrain we're stepping on, let's move to strategies. The most common mistake I see men over 50 making is trying to train like 25-year-old boys. They grab routines from magazines or the internet that divide the body into isolated parts. Monday is chest day, Tuesday is back day, Wednesday is leg day, and so on. This division is simply disastrous for the natural, mature man. Science has already shown us that after a weight training session, protein synthesis, in other words, the period when the body is effectively building muscle, remains elevated for about 24 to 36 hours in older individuals. If you train chest on Monday and only return to train it the following Monday, you took advantage of one day of construction and left the muscle in a state of latency or degradation for 6 entire days. At this age, to overcome anabolic resistance and sarcopenia, you need frequency, not excessive volume in a single day. You need to remind your body constantly that muscle is necessary. Therefore, we can state that the best training split for those who've passed 50 years old without a shadow of doubt is full body training, performed 3 times a week, or an upper and lower split of 4 days. We'll focus on the full body model because it allows something precious at this age: recovery. By training Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, working all the major muscle groups in each session, you keep the muscle building machinery on all week long. And crucially, you have Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday to recover your nervous system and joints. Remember, muscle grows during rest, not during training. If you don't recover, you don't grow, you just inflame. And since you're not 20 anymore, within this training, exercise selection needs to pass through a rigorous cost-benefit filter. At 20, you can afford to do exercises that generate great joint stress because your connective tissues are elastic and new. At 50, no. The goal is to put maximum tension on the muscle with minimum tension on the joint. This means we must leave ego at the door. Classic exercises like the flat barbell bench press or free squat with maximum loads often charge too high a price on the shoulders and lumbar spine. Let's apply an intelligent substitution. Instead of the barbell bench press, which locks your shoulders in a fixed internal rotation, opt for dumbbell bench press or articulated machines. Dumbbells allow your wrists and elbows to find a natural movement path, saving your rotator cuffs while demanding more stability and chest activation. For legs, the free squat is excellent, but the leg press, or even better, the Bulgarian split squat, can generate brutal hypertrophy without placing compressive load on your spine. The Bulgarian split squat, done only with body weight or light dumbbells, is an ego humbler and a phenomenal leg builder that respects your lower back. But it's not just the exercise that matters, it's how you execute it. We're talking about time under tension and eccentric phase. Since your nervous system is no longer as efficient at recruiting fibers and your joints already have mileage, you shouldn't depend on explosive loads and quick movements. You must dominate the weight. In short, forget the ego. You need to apply a good cadence in the eccentric phase and have good range of motion. Rest assured, nobody is concerned with the weight you're lifting. Focus obsessively on the eccentric phase of the movement, that is, on the descent. When you push the weight, you can do it with normal speed, but on the return, count mentally 2 to 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, controlling every millimeter. It's in this lengthening phase under load that the greatest controlled micro-injuries occur that stimulate growth. By doing this, a weight that would seem light becomes incredibly heavy for the muscle but remains light and safe for the joint. It's a way to trick the body to generate massive results with total safety. This technique reconnects the brain to the muscle, forcing that neural connection that was being lost. In general, with these guidelines, inside the gym, you'll already be ahead of 99% of men your age. However, as you already imagine, muscle building happens more outside the gym than inside. And that's where we enter another minefield. Nutrition for men over 50 cannot be intuitive. It needs to be strategic. The fact is that most men eat much less protein than necessary to overcome anabolic resistance. The typical breakfast of bread and coffee is a metabolic disaster for those who want to gain mass. It provides no construction signal to the body. To trigger protein synthesis in a mature body, you need to reach a leucine threshold, an essential amino acid, at each meal. Eating a little bit of protein several times a day doesn't work as well as eating robust doses at specific moments. You should aim for at least 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein in each of your 3 or 4 main meals. We're talking about 4 eggs, or a chicken breast the size of your open hand, or a generous dose of protein supplement. If you don't reach this peak, the cell door doesn't open and construction doesn't happen. Beyond protein, don't forget that when we talk about muscle building, carbohydrates are essential. Many men develop a phobia of carbohydrates, or on the contrary, abuse them, and develop insulin resistance, accumulating visceral fat. Carbohydrate is not the enemy, it's fuel, but it must be earned. The best strategy is to concentrate carbohydrate intake, like rice, potatoes, oatmeal, and fruits, in the moments around your training. Before training to provide energy and, crucially, after training. After exercise, your muscle cells are thirsty and act like sponges. It's the moment when carbohydrate will be used to replenish glycogen and help transport nutrients into the cell, not to be stored as fat in the belly. In meals far from training, prioritize proteins, good fats like olive oil and avocado, and fibrous vegetables. This keeps your insulin controlled during most of the day, facilitating fat burning and reducing systemic inflammation, which is another great enemy of mass gain in maturity. Don't forget that muscle is composed of approximately 75% water. Perhaps you don't feel all this thirst, but a dehydrated body is a catabolic body. Water is necessary for all chemical construction reactions and for the health of your joints. Intervertebral discs and cartilage depend on hydration to maintain cushioning. Many of the pains that men feel in their knees and backs are aggravated by chronic dehydration. The goal should be to ingest about 35 to 40 milliliters of water per kilogram of body weight every day. It's a simple, cheap intervention that drastically changes your performance and well-being. Another important point, amid the recent rise of fitness culture, it's easy to get lost in miraculous promises. Every day they invent a new supplement, claiming that if you don't use it, you'll fall behind. But you've lived long enough to know you need to be skeptical and focus only on what has robust proof. And there's no other way. Creatine monohydrate is the most important supplement for you. And no, I'm not trying to advertise or anything like that. It's just the truth, based on science. Forget the myth that it harms the kidneys. This has been debunked for decades for healthy people. And please don't tell me it causes hair loss. This is also a myth that's been debunked long ago. The fact is that creatine helps in quick energy production, allowing you to do that extra repetition that generates adaptation. It also offers proven benefits for cognitive function and preservation of lean mass. It's a protector of your body and your mind. Another essential pillar for your age is vitamin D3, which actually functions as a pre-hormone. Vitamin D deficiency is linked to lower testosterone levels and weaker bones. Along with it, magnesium is fundamental for relaxing the nervous system and improving sleep quality, and omega-3 acts as a potent systemic anti-inflammatory. An inflamed body doesn't build anything, it just fights to survive. Controlling inflammation is creating fertile ground for muscle to grow. This leads us to the invisible factor, the one that's neglected by almost everyone: lifestyle and recovery. You don't grow in the gym, you grow in bed while you sleep. Sleep is your natural hormone replacement clinic. It's during the deep phases of sleep that the body releases growth hormone, known as GH, and removes toxins accumulated in the brain during the day. After 50, sleep tends to become fragmented. Protecting your sleep should be as high a priority as training. A dark, cold room, and staying away from bright screens at least 1 hour before bed aren't luxuries. They're physiological necessities for those who want to be strong. Also, try not to eat heavy meals shortly before sleeping or drink too much water at night. Stress also plays a destructive role. Cortisol, the stress hormone, is antagonistic to testosterone. When one goes up, the other goes down. Living in a constant state of alert, worried, anxious, and sleeping poorly keeps your body in a catabolic state where it breaks down muscle tissue to generate quick energy. Finding escape valves, whether through walks, reading, meditation, or hobbies, is essential to lower cortisol and allow the anabolic hormonal environment to flourish. Now let's consolidate all of this into a practical plan, a routine you can visualize and start applying. Imagine a week where you train weightlifting 3 times: Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On Monday, you do a full-body workout focused on pushing and legs. You start with a mobility warm-up to loosen the hips and shoulders, then you go to the Bulgarian split squat or a controlled leg press, feeling each leg fiber work without knee pain. Continue to dumbbell bench press, controlling the descent, feeling the chest stretch. Add an overhead press for shoulders and finish with a triceps exercise and core focused on stability, like the plank. You leave the gym feeling stimulated, not destroyed. On Tuesday, you don't stay still. You do a brisk 40-minute walk. This increases blood flow, helps remove metabolites from the previous workout, and improves insulin sensitivity without generating excessive fatigue. On Wednesday, back to weight training with focus on pulling and posterior chain. Do a Romanian deadlift with dumbbells to armor the back of the legs and lower back. Do pull-downs or pull-ups to widen the back, followed by rows to give density. Finish with biceps and lateral raises for shoulders, giving that width aspect that differentiates the athletic physique. Thursday is another walk or mobility activity day. Friday, you return for the 3rd full-body workout, perhaps mixing metabolic exercises, using cables and machines to pump blood to the muscle safely, ensuring the weekend starts with accelerated metabolism. Saturday and Sunday are for active recovery, leisure, and family, keeping nutrition clean and hydration high. This routine is not a promise of transformation in 30 days. That's marketing. What I'm giving you is simply a sustainable lifestyle, a good workout where you won't be living under an athlete's pressure but continue progressing always. Consistency is the secret weapon. The man who trains perfectly for 2 months and stops because of an injury will always be surpassed by the man who trains intelligently and safely for 10 uninterrupted years. The game after 50 is the game of longevity and consistency. There's also a psychological component we cannot ignore. Many men give up because they compare their current self with their 20-year-old self. This comparison is the thief of joy and progress. You're not trying to recover the body you had. You're building the body you need to have now, a capable, resilient, and reliable body. When you shift the focus from pure aesthetics to functionality and capacity, aesthetics comes as a consequence. Ask yourself, am I training to impress strangers or to guarantee I'll be independent and strong until the last day of my life? When the motivation is sovereignty over your own body, discipline stops being a burden and becomes an identity. You don't go to the gym because you have to go, you go because that's what a man who respects himself does. Well, now you have the path. If you want to know more about how many repetitions you should do in each exercise based on the most recent studies, we've left a video appearing right now on the screen. Don't miss it. Thank you for watching until here, my friend.